My favorite game has become nothing more than a shadow of the past. And today I'll share why it's time to say goodbye. Accepting change is difficult, but sometimes it's inevitable. This is how I chose a new path by bidding farewell to what was once important to me. I had postponed this video for a long time, but I think it's finally time to release it. I didn't want to upload the video immediately, so I decided to wait until my emotions and disappointment subsided. If I still felt the same, I would have created the video you see now. It seems like 4 months have passed. I played Villagers and Heroes for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. The game captivated me even though there were things that annoyed me. I'm grateful to the developers for this game, with which I had so much fun for such a long time, and I even invited my wife to join. However, it seems that the game I once loved has died, and it's time for me to accept that. Until now, I was still waiting to see if the game would return to how it used to be. So I kept logging in, collecting daily gifts, and reading the forum and reviews. But after the developers presented the upcoming changes for 2025, I realized that I no longer liked the direction the game was taking, so it's time to accept it and move on. The game is losing the freedom it once had. A scaling system has been introduced in certain zones. In my view, this means that your progress is simply thrown into the trash. I'll include a link to the upcoming updates in the description if you want to read more. According to forum comments, with which I agree, the game forces you to play in groups too much and reduces solo gameplay opportunities. I have created several videos with tips about this game, but now I'm not sure if they're still valid, since even the prices in the store have increased. What happened? After the Crux update, the game began to change, and those changes split the community. Some players liked the changes. Maybe I'll call them fanatics, because for them everything is fine no matter what the developers do. Even if it takes 4 billion XP to level up once, it's not a problem. Other players argued that such requirements are absurd. However, after 1 to 2 months, the developers reduced the XP requirements from 4 billion to 400 million, and from 1 billion XP for crafting to 10 million. They explained this as a way to slow down player progress, but this isn't the first time they've done it, often by other means, like setting a higher number of keys or other methods. Their obsession with controlling player progress seems completely incomprehensible to me, because after 1 to 2 months they still remove those restrictions. It just seems illogical, as it pushes players away. By introducing such restrictions and then removing them, they end up doing it poorly. They often excuse themselves by saying they have a small team, yet as far as I know, their team is now the largest it's ever been. Every time they change the system, players have to adapt all over again. They fix mistakes, and after fixing them, new ones arise, leaving you with the feeling that you're testing the game rather than enjoying a finished product. Players are not testers, and it's often unclear whether a problem is a bug or if it's meant to be that way. It seems to me that the developers are wasting time fixing problems they created instead of working on actual updates. The developers create the illusion that the players' voices matter to them, but in practice, I believe this isn't true. You can debate, suggest ideas, complain, or praise, but they rarely take that into account. Decisions are based more on statistics than on what the players propose. Most long-standing issues still haven't been resolved, and that's just one example. There are many more. Players who enjoy gathering resources and avoiding combat are forced to take up arms and fight, because without reaching a certain combat level, you can't enter higher level zones to gather resources. Fighters can progress without crafting and gathering, but gatherers and crafters aren't given that freedom. Without reaching a certain combat level, you can't enter the higher level zones to gather resources. Eventually, even those zones where you could calmly gather higher level resources without any monsters are no longer available. Now you have to gather resources among monsters, and to enter those zones, you need to raise your combat level, otherwise you won't get in. This discrimination has been going on for quite some time, and it seems that the developers simply don't care. Of course, there are more issues that have been around for a while, but receive no response or solution. Either you adapt, suffer with what you have, or leave the game. The forum is open. Registration isn't required, so if you want to read more on your own without any hassle, you can. I'll include a link in the video description. The developers often fix things that aren't broken, and that creates even more problems. Every time, the improvements add new bugs, trapping you in a constant cycle of bug fixes. The developers' communication perfectly reflects their live streams, where upcoming changes should be presented. Instead, they resemble random broadcasts where the hosts don't really know what they're talking about. In the end, they can barely answer game-related questions or simply ignore them. It resembles trash talk, a complete waste of time. I would rather suggest that they create a trailer for the upcoming updates or prepare a script, as that would look more professional than an hour-long rant that probably only needs 5 to 10 minutes. And you could turn the players' questions into a question and answer video, which would certainly look better. So it's time to say goodbye to Villagers and Heroes. The game I once loved no longer exists, and its new direction doesn't interest me anymore. I no longer see myself in this game. I had hoped to come back, but it's no longer the game that once captivated me. I wish the developers success and thank them for the game and the fun times I spent playing it. I also thank the friendly players for all the help I received when facing challenges. Now, in conclusion, if you play this game and still enjoy it, please write what you like about it. I have 2 6-month Ardent Society memberships, as well as a socket, Sweat CPI, and similar items that I no longer need. Maybe this will enhance the experience for players and fans of the game. My account is on the EU server, so I'll gladly transfer them to someone. I'll show that they are in my inventory. If anyone is interested, leave a comment. However, I would kindly ask you not to be greedy and to leave some for others.